So we're just going to clean the case with the freshly installed bearings out one last time, make sure any dirt that fell in there before assembly, before the bearing went in, doesn't get in. Got a new crank here, and basically what I'm going to do, drop it in the bearing, and I'm going to let it sit with on a clean rag. Got the Husky crank tool here, so you put it on in this order. You put the washer on the thread on the bolt first, sorry, the nut, then the washer, then the spacer, then you screw it on, which is obviously on the flywheel side is righty tight and lefty loosen. On the clutch side it's lefty tight and righty loosen. It's left hand thread. Then run the nut down, do it tight. Then basically all you do, make sure you need a combi spanner. They cleverly made the bolt 19mm, so I'm just going to put it on and rest it against the bench. That gives me a hand free, then like so, to hold the connecting rod. And then, because I'm a heathen, I've just got an adjustable spanner, which I need to loosen a bit. And all I'm going to do is wind that like so, and it's going to pull the crank in for me. Fabulous tool, cost me about 20 quid. I don't know what's that, is that about $25, something like that, I wouldn't have a clue. The amount of 372s I do, it's well worth the money. And then you just keep winding until you get a dead stop, and you'll know when the crank's in all the way, because like I said, you'll hit a dead stop because the crank seat's up against the bearing seat's up against the case. It sets everything to factory spec because it's a factory tool. Just going to keep turning, we're almost there. There we go, dead stop, physically can't turn it anymore, so I'm going to take the combi spanner around this side now, so it rests on the bench, and just loosen and crack the nut off, spin it back, and then once I spin the nut back, spin the bolt off the crank, like so, take the whole lot off, inspect it, make sure it's in right, haven't bent the com rod against the case, turn smooth, and we turn it this way. We've got the gasket with a coating of Halimar on, locating pins in place. I'm going to put the two case halves together like so and just sit them roughly. Then what we're going to do is take our nut off the bolt with the thread for the flywheel side, and we're going to put the one on for the PTO side. And when you install them, you have to run the nut all the way down to the end, because obviously that's the nut is what pulls the crank in. So just run that down. Probably see that. I hope you see that. Then the washer, then the spacer, then that whole lot sits on the end of the crank and threads on to the crank like so. Then thread the nut down, which sets everything ready to go. Oh sorry, ignore me, I got to tighten. On this side you have to tighten the bolt, the crank a bit, not tight but just there, and then go back with the nut. Put the combi spanner this time, like so, and then start winding together. What you got to be careful of on this side is that the gasket's in the right place, because this is the side with the gasket on. So as I'm winding, I'm watching the cases close, I'm making sure the locking pins are lined up, the gasket's still sat on the locating pins, and it's all going together correctly. What you can do as this comes together, if you want to make sure your gasket's in the right place, once you've just got the locating pins seated, so you see there, I've literally just got it in enough that the locating pins are seated. What you can do is grab your tin with your bits in and find a case bolt or two, There's one case bolt. No, working blind here. 1, 2 case bolts, and then what I do with those is just pick that hole, say, and the place where there isn't normally a locating pin, so we go that hole and that hole, and we'll just take that bit off. And where's my other bit gone? He says he's lost the bit. Where's my bit there? All we do, just run those screws in ever so slightly, and all that's going to do is keep the case gasket in the right place while we finish closing the case. So we've lined the pins up now, just on the final squeeze together, like so. And those screws are just going to help with the locating pins, keep the gasket in place while we tighten the case up. Again, keep turning until you feel a dead stop. So not quite there. Take the commie span around so it sits on the bench. Crack the nut off. Might need to turn it a bit more than that. Crack the nut off. Spin the nut back a bit. Then undo the bolt from the shaft. Obviously clutch side, so it's righty loose and lefty tighten. And we're just going to put that there, like so. And we're going to put that back in the box. It's a Husqvarna tool, but it's just in a Pharmatech card box that I had just to keep the threads from getting damaged. Now we've done that, obviously the crank turns free because there's no seals in. So we'll put the seals in next, that's what these tools are for, but I'll pause that and come back to you.